Introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real today. Respect is one of the most powerful currencies you can have in this world. Money can open doors, fame can turn heads, but respect makes people listen when you speak, stand when you enter, and remember you when you leave. And here's the truth most people don't realize. Respect ain't given because you demand it. Respect shows up automatically when your behavior announces your value before your mouth ever has to. See, a lot of folks think respect comes from position title or how loud you talk. That ain't it. Real respect comes from how you carry yourself when nobody's clapping, when nobody's watching, and when life ain't going your way. There are behaviors that signal strength without aggression, confidence without arrogance, and authority without force. When you live these behaviors consistently, people don't just like you, they naturally respect you. Consistency is one of the most underestimated forces in human behavior, yet it is the backbone of respect. People don't measure you by what you say once or what you do occasionally. They measure you by patterns. Patterns tell the truth about who you are. Anyone can act disciplined for a day, kind for a moment, or committed for behavior. One to speak with confidence, a short season. But when your actions repeat with reliability over time, something powerful happens in the minds of others. They begin to trust your stability. And trust is the soil where respect grows. When your character is consistent, people don't have to guess your intentions. They don't have to decode your mood, question your loyalty, or wonder if your standards will change tomorrow. They know where you stand. That clarity creates psychological safety around you. Human beings naturally respect what feels stable because stability signals strength. Inconsistent people feel unpredictable, and unpredictability feels unsafe. But consistent behavior communicates you can depend on me. And dependability is a rare commodity in a world full of fluctuation. Consistency also removes the need for self-promotion. When you show up the same way repeatedly, prepared, honest, disciplined, respectful, your reputation builds itself. You don't need to remind people of your value because your behavior has already demonstrated it over time. Respect earned this way is deeper than admiration earned through talent or charm because it is anchored in reliability rather than impression. Talents impress people temporarily. Consistency convinces them permanently. Another reason consistency commands respect is that it reflects internal alignment. When your values and actions match repeatedly, people sense integrity. Integrity is not about moral perfection. It is about behavioral coherence. If you claim principles but only apply them when convenient, people perceive a gap between your words and your reality. That gap erodes respect quickly, but when your standards hold steady across situations, whether you are winning or struggling, praised or criticized, comfortable or challenged, people recognize authenticity. Authenticity signals that you are governed from within rather than controlled by circumstances. That kind of self-governance earns automatic respect. Consistency also magnifies accountability. When you are known as someone who follows through, even small commitments carry weight. If you say you will do something, people assume it will happen. That expectation becomes part of your identity. Over time, you become associated with completion, reliability, and follow through. This identity precedes you into rooms you haven't entered yet. People who have never met you may already trust you based on your track record. That is the silent power of consistent behavior. It builds reputation in your absence. There is also a psychological principle at play. Humans look for predictability in social relationships. Predictable individuals are easier to cooperate with, rely on, and invest in. Consistency reduces cognitive load for others because they don't have to constantly reassess who you are, you. Our reactions, standards, and effort level become expected rather than uncertain. This predictability fosters comfort, and comfort combined with competence becomes respect. People respect those whose behavior they can anticipate in a positive way. Consistency does not mean rigidity or lack of growth. In fact, growth itself requires consistency. Improvement comes from repeated effort, repeated discipline, repeated correction. When people see you consistently working on yourself, consistently learning, showing up, and refining, they interpret that as commitment. Commitment is respected universally because it signals seriousness. Inconsistent effort suggests interest. Consistent effort proves dedication, and dedication carries authority even without status. Another dimension of consistency is emotional steadiness. When your reactions remain proportionate and measured across situations, people experience you as grounded. Emotional volatility makes others cautious. Emotional steadiness makes them confident in you. They know you won't overreact, withdraw unpredictably, or change attitudes abruptly. That steadiness communicates maturity, and maturity is respected instinctively. Even in disagreement, consistent emotional conduct preserves dignity and therefore respect. Consistency also strengthens boundaries. When your standards do not shift under pressure, people learn what is acceptable around you. They adapt their behavior accordingly. If you tolerate disrespect once but reject it later, you create confusion. But if your boundaries remain stable, others adjust quickly because expectations are clear. Clear expectations reduce conflict and behavior. 2, to stand by your values, increase respect because people recognize that your principles are not negotiable based on convenience. Over time, consistent behavior compounds like interest. Each kept promise, each repeated discipline, each reliable response adds another layer to your credibility. Eventually, respect becomes automatic because people stop evaluating you moment by moment. They rely on accumulated evidence of your character. Your past consistency predicts your future behavior, and that predictability forms the basis of long-term respect. Ultimately, consistency demonstrates self-control. It shows that your actions are not dictated by mood, ego, or impulse, but by chosen standards. Self-control is universally respected because it reflects mastery over oneself. The most difficult mastery of all, when others see that you govern your behavior deliberately and repeatedly, they perceive strength. And perceived strength, especially quiet and stable strength, naturally commands respect. Emotional control is one of the clearest signals of personal power because it reveals who is in charge, you or your impulses. Anyone cast in remain calm when everything is comfortable and agreeable, but real emotional discipline shows itself when tension rises, when expectations are broken, or when someone challenges your ego. In those moments, reactions become visible reflections of inner structure. If you lose control quickly, people interpret instability. If you maintain composure, they perceive strength. Respect naturally flows toward those who demonstrate that their emotions are guided rather than explosive. Human beings are highly sensitive to emotional cues. We constantly evaluate whether someone is safe, predictable, and stable enough to trust. When a person reacts with disproportionate anger, panic, or defensiveness, observers subconsciously register unpredictability. Unpredictable individuals feel risky to engage with, rely on, or follow. But when someone responds thoughtfully under pressure, the opposite impression forms. Emotional regulation communicates that this person can handle complexity without collapsing into chaos. That capability is respected even by those who disagree with them. Emotional control also reflects self-awareness. To regulate a reaction, you must recognize it first. You must notice rising frustration, wounded pride, or anxiety before it spills into behavior. That awareness indicates internal observation, the ability to watch your own mental state rather than be consumed by it. Respect individuals who demonstrate this awareness because it signals maturity. Maturity is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to experience emotion without surrendering authority to it. When others see that you feel deeply but act deliberately, they interpret balance. And balance commands respect. Another reason emotional discipline earns respect is that it preserves dignity in conflict. Disagreements are inevitable in human interaction, but the manner in which someone navigates conflict determines how they are perceived afterward. If you shout, insult, or react impulsively, the issue itself becomes secondary. Your behavior becomes the focal point. Credibility erodes. But if you remain calm, articulate, and controlled, your position gains weight regardless of outcome. Even opponents acknowledge composure. Calmness during disagreement signals confidence in one's position, while volatility suggests insecurity. People respect confidence more than correctness. Emotional control also demonstrates resilience. Pressure situations expose internal tolerance thresholds. When you remain steady under criticism, delay, or adversity, observers conclude that you possess psychological endurance. Endurance is respected because it suggests reliability under stress. Teams, families, and communities naturally gravitate toward individuals who remain stable when circumstances are unstable. Stability under pressure implies leadership potential because leadership fundamentally involves absorbing tension without transferring it destructively to others. Those who manage their emotional load effectively are trusted with greater responsibility. There is also a contagion effect to emotional states. Highly reactive individuals amplify anxiety and conflict in their environment. Calm individuals dampen it. Groups instinctively respect a person whose presence lowers chaos rather than increases it. When you regulate yourself, you indirectly, behavior 3, carry yourself with dignity, regulate the emotional climate around you. Others feel more secure, more focused, and more cooperative. This stabilizing influence is powerful and often subconscious. Respect emerges because people associate you with order rather than disorder. Emotional discipline further protects judgment. Strong emotional surges narrow perception and distort decisioning. Acting while flooded with anger or fear often leads to choices that require later repair. When you pause, breathe, and respond intentionally, you show that your decisions are not hijacked by temporary states. Observers interpret this as wisdom. Wisdom is respected because it implies foresight and responsibility. The ability to delay reaction until clarity returns signals mastery over immediate impulses in favor of long-term outcomes. Anote. Our dimension is boundary strength. Emotional overreaction often occurs when identity feels threatened. If you are secure internally, criticism or disagreement does not destabilize you as easily. Your sense of self remains intact, so your response can remain measured. People respect individuals who do not crumble or explode when challenged. It suggests that their self-worth is internally anchored rather than externally dependent. That internal anchoring conveys quiet confidence, which naturally attracts respect. Emotional control also maintains consistency of character. Without regulation, behavior fluctuates with mood, fatigue, or stress. With regulation, standards remain stable regardless of internal weather. Others learn that your fairness, patience, and professionalism do not disappear under strain. This reliability reinforces trust. Trust accumulated across emotionally charged situations deepens respect because people have witnessed your steadiness when it mattered most. Importantly, emotional discipline does not mean suppression or coldness. Suppression hides emotion. Control integrates it. You still feel anger, disappointment, or hurt, but you channel them into constructive expression rather than destructive reaction. Observers recognize this distinction. Expressing concerns calmly, asserting boundaries respectfully, or addressing issues directly without hostility demonstra. Test both authenticity and restraint. This combination is rare and therefore respected. Over time, consistent emotional regulation builds a reputation of composure. People anticipate that you will respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. That expectation alters how they approach you with seriousness, with openness, and with regard. Your presence begins to signal steadiness. In uncertain environments, steadiness is perceived as strength, and strength that does not need to be displayed aggressively becomes the kind of quiet authority that others instinctively respect. Self-respect is the silent foundation on which all external respect is built, because people rarely treat you better than you treat yourself. It is not something you announce or demand. It is something you demonstrate through what you tolerate, what you refuse, and what standards you quietly maintain in your life. When you possess genuine self-respect, your behavior communicates value without explanation. Others sense that value and adjust their conduct accordingly. This adjustment happens not because you insist on it, but because your boundaries and choices make it clear that your worth is not negotiable. At its core, self-respect is alignment between your inner valuation and your outer behavior. If you believe you deserve honesty but accept dishonesty, or believe you deserve fairness but accept mistreatment, you create a contradiction. People observe that contradiction and unconsciously lower their estimation of how you expect to be treated. But when your actions consistently reflect your stated worth, walking away from disrespect, declining what diminishes you, honoring your commitments to yourself, observers perceive congruence. Congruence signals integrity, and integrity commands respect because it shows that your principles are lived rather than spoken. Self-respect also shapes boundaries, which are essential for healthy human interaction. Boundaries are not walls against people. They are guidelines for how you engage with them. When boundaries are absent or inconsistent, others are left to guess what is acceptable. Many will test limits, not always maliciously, but because humans naturally explore available space in relationships. If that space expands without resistance, behavior for be disciplined and consistent, they assume permissibility. But when your boundaries are clear and steady, expressed calmly and upheld consistently, expectations stabilize. People learn quickly how to treat you, and they often rise to meet that level. Respect grows because interaction becomes structured by mutual clarity rather than ambiguity. Another powerful element of self-respect is self-care in the broadest sense. Caring for your time, energy, health, and attention communicates that you see yourself as worthy of preservation. When you invest in your growth, maintain your well-being, and protect your focus, you signal that your life has value. Others read this signal subconsciously. They become less likely to waste your time, dismiss your needs, or overlook your contributions. Neglecting oneself, by contrast, often invites neglect from others, not out of cruelty, but because human perception mirrors visible priorities. When you prioritize yourself appropriately, you teach others to do the same. Self-respect also influences communication. Individuals who value themselves speak with calm assurance rather than apology or aggression. They do not over-explain their worth, nor do they shrink their presence to accommodate discomfort. Their tone reflects equality rather than submission or dominance. This balanced communication style fosters respect because it positions interaction on level ground. People naturally respect those who neither elevate themselves artificially nor diminish themselves unnecessarily. The equilibrium suggests confidence rooted in self-acceptance. Rather than comparison, there is also a profound connection between self-respect and decision-making. Choices reveal valuation. When you repeatedly choose environments, relationships, and actions that support your dignity and growth, observers infer that you possess discernment. Discernment is respected because it implies awareness and intentionality. Conversely, repeatedly remaining in degrading or limiting situations suggests tolerance of low valuation, which can unconsciously lower how others evaluate you. By choosing alignment with your worth, you reinforce both internal and external perception of value. Self-respect further stabilizes identity. When your sense of worth originates within, external approval becomes supplementary rather than essential. This independence from validation changes how you carry yourself. You no longer chase acceptance at the expense of authenticity. You can disagree without hostility and stand alone without insecurity. Observers Interpret this steadiness as confidence. Confidence that does not rely on dominance or attention is particularly respected because it feels grounded rather than performative. It suggests that your self-view is not easily altered by circumstance or opinion. Importantly, self-respect coexists with humility. It is not arrogance or superiority. Arrogance inflates worth artificially. Self-respect recognizes inherent worth realistically. A self-respecting person can admit mistakes, learn from others, and acknowledge limitations without feeling diminished. This flexibility enhances respect because it combines strength with openness. People trust those who value themselves enough to grow rather defend ego. Growth-oriented self, respect D, demonstrates security, and security is respected instinctively. Consistency of self, respect over time creates reputation. When others repeatedly observe that you honor your standards, protect your dignity, and align your actions with your values, they internalize an image of you as someone not easily compromised. That image influences future interactions. People approach you with greater consideration, speak with greater care, and engage with greater seriousness. Respect becomes anticipatory rather than reactive. It precedes interaction because your history has established expectation. Ultimately, self-respect is communicated through behavior more than words. It appears in what you allow, what you pursue, and what you decline. Each choice either reinforces or erodes perceived worth. When your life consistently reflects that you regard yourself as valuable, others adopt that perception naturally. They sense that beneath your actions lies an unwavering internal standard. And a person guided by an internal standard rather than external pressure carries a quiet authority that people recognize and respect without needing to be told. Listening deeply is one of the most powerful yet overlooked behaviors that creates automatic respect because it communicates value without a single boast or demand. When you truly listen to someone, you are offering them something rare in modern interactions: undivided attention. Attention is a form of recognition. It tells another human being your thoughts matter, your experience matters, you matter. And people instinctively respect those who make them feel significant without manipulation or flattery. Respect often grows not from how impressively you speak, but from how sincerely you receive. Most conversations are not behavior 5, treat everyone with respect. Actually, exchanges of understanding, they are rotations of speaking turns. Many individuals listen only long enough to prepare their reply, interrupt to redirect focus, or mentally drift while the other person talks. This pattern subtly signals disinterest or self-preoccupation. But when you listen with presence, maintaining eye contact, allowing pauses, absorbing meaning rather than waiting for your chance, you create a different experience. The speaker feels seen and heard rather than managed. That feeling generates trust, and trust naturally evolves into respect. Deep listening also demonstrates emotional intelligence. To truly hear someone, you must notice tone, intention, and feeling beneath words. This requires attention beyond surface content. When you respond in ways that reflect accurate understanding, acknowledging concerns, clarifying points, or summarizing what you heard, you show cognitive and emotional attunement. People respect those who understand them without distortion because understanding is evidence of awareness. Awareness signals maturity and competence in human interaction, both of which command regard. Another reason listening builds respect is that it reduces ego display. Constant speaking often reflects a need to assert presence or authority. But when you are comfortable allowing others space to express themselves fully, you convey security. Secure individuals do not need to dominate conversation to feel valued. This absence of conversational dominance suggests confidence rooted in self-assurance rather than attention-seeking. Observers interpret that quiet confidence as strength. Strength that does not demand spotlight often receives deeper respect than performance that does. Listening deeply also enhances judgment. Information quality improves when people feel safe to share honestly. If someone senses interruption, dismissal, or impatience, they filter or shorten what they say. But attentive listening encourages fuller disclosure. You gain clearer insight into perspectives, motivations, and facts. When your later responses reflect this fuller understanding, others recognize discernment. Discernment is respected because it leads to thoughtful decisions rather than impulsive conclusions. People trust those who listen before acting. There is also reciprocity and attention. Humans tend to mirror. When someone experiences genuine listening, they become more inclined to listen in return. This mutual attentiveness elevates the quality of interaction on both sides. Respect grows because each person feels acknowledged. You become associated with conversations that feel meaningful rather than transactional. Over time, individuals seek your input, not merely for answers, but for the experience of being heard. That reputation strengthens perceived wisdom and fairness. Deep listening further communicates patience, allowing someone to finish, resisting interruption, and tolerating pauses requires restraint. Restraint indicates control over impulse, and impulse control is widely respected. It shows that you prioritize understanding over immediacy. In disagreements, this patience is especially powerful. When you let others articulate their position fully before responding, you preserve dignity on both sides. Even if you ultimately disagree, the other person recognizes that their perspective received fair consideration. Respect persists despite difference because process remained honorable. Listening also clarifies boundaries and expectations. By hearing others accurately, you reduce misinterpretation and unnecessary conflict. Clear understanding prevents assumptions that often lead to friction. When interactions with you are marked by clarity rather than confusion, people perceive reliability. Reliable communicators earn respect because they reduce relational uncertainty. Others know that when they speak with you, their meaning will not be twisted or ignored. Importantly, deep listening does not mean silence or passivity. It includes thoughtful response, questions that deepen understanding, and reflections that show engagement. This balanced exchange communicates both receptivity and presence. People respect those who can receive fully and respond meaningfully. It signals that your mind is both open and active, capable of absorbing and processing rather than merely projecting. Over time, consistent, deep listening shapes identity. You become known as someone who understands before judging, considers before concluding, and values people beyond their utility. That identity carries quiet authority. Individuals feel safe sharing ideas, concerns, and insights with you, and they attribute wisdom to your presence because wisdom is often associated with a tint of awareness. Respect follows naturally, not because you claim expertise, but because your listening demonstrates regard for others. And mastery over self-centered impulse. Accountability is one of the fastest ways to earn respect because it demonstrates ownership over one's actions without the need for external pressure. When you take responsibility for what you do, what you say, and the results you create, you cite now maturity. Behavior 6, control your emotions. Maturity is respected because it reflects self-governance, the ability to regulate and direct oneself rather than depend on correction from others. People instinctively trust and respect those who do not need to be chased, reminded, or confronted to acknowledge their role in outcomes. Many individuals avoid accountability because they associate it with blame or weakness. They deflect, justify, or minimize errors to protect ego. But this avoidance has the opposite effect of what they intend. When someone refuses responsibility, observers perceive insecurity. Insecurity lowers respect because it suggests fragility, a person more concerned with image than truth. In contrast, when you openly acknowledge a mistake or shortcoming, you display psychological strength. You show that your self-worth can withstand imperfection. That resilience commands respect because it reveals inner stability rather than defensive posture. Accountability also reinforces credibility. Words alone rarely establish trust. Congress between words and actions does. When you commit to something and later confirm, I didn't meet that standard or that outcome is on me, you align reality with acknowledgement. This alignment removes ambiguity. Others no longer need to question whether you recognize the same facts they do. Shared recognition of reality builds confidence in your honesty. Honest individuals are respected because they reduce uncertainty in cooperation and communication. People know where you stand and what you accept is true. Another dimension of accountability is corrective action. Respect grows not merely from admitting fault, but from adjusting behavior afterward. When observers see that you learn from mistakes, changing process, improving effort, or repairing harm, they infer growth capacity. Growth capacity is respected because it signals adaptability and responsibility over time. Anyone can apologize. Fewer demonstrate measurable improvement. The pattern of owning, learning, and improving forms a cycle of reliability that others come to depend upon. Accountability also stabilizes group dynamics. In teams, families, or partnerships, conflict often escalates when responsibility is disputed. If individuals compete to avoid blame, tension increases and trust erodes. But when someone steps forward and claims their portion of responsibility, tension decreases. The focus shifts from accusation to solution. People respect those who prioritize resolution over self-protection. This behavior indicates leadership orientation, attention directed toward collective outcome rather than personal image. Leadership behavior naturally attracts respect even without formal authority. There is also a moral clarity and accountability. Act novel. Dieting one's role affirms fairness. It communicates that standards apply equally, including to oneself. Observers interpret this as integrity. Integrity is respected because it signals that principles are not selectively applied. When you hold yourself to the same expectations you hold others, you eliminate hypocrisy. Hypocrisy erodes respect quickly. Fairness restores it. People gravitate toward those whose self-standards match their external expectations. Accountability further enhances predictability. When individuals know that you will acknowledge errors honestly and address them, they feel safer collaborating with you. They do not fear concealment or denial if something goes wrong. This psychological safety fosters deeper cooperation. Respect emerges because reliability in adversity is more valued than perfection and ease. A person who remains accountable under pressure proves dependability in the moments that matter most. Importantly, accountability does not involve harsh self-criticism or shame. It is not self-punishment. It is self-recognition. You observe outcomes accurately, accept causation realistically, and respond constructively. This balanced stance communicates emotional regulation alongside responsibility. People respect those who can face truth without collapsing into defensiveness or self-degradation. It shows both strength and composure over time, consistent. In T, accountability shapes reputation. Others come to associate you with honesty, ownership, and follow through. They anticipate that if you err, you will acknowledge and correct it without evasion. That expectation builds deep trust. Trust accumulated across situations transforms into respect because your behavior demonstrates alignment between intention and action. You become known as someone who stands behind your choices and learns from them. Ultimately, accountability signals sovereignty over one's conduct. It shows that you are the author of your behavior rather than a victim of circumstance or impulse. Individuals who accept authorship over their actions project agency. Agency is respected because it implies capability, responsibility, and control. When others see that you claim both success and failure as yours to manage, they perceive a person who can behavior 7 to respect yourself first, be relied upon in both achievement and error. And such reliability naturally commands enduring respect. Living with purpose is one of the most compelling behaviors that earns automatic respect because it signals direction, intention, and meaning behind your actions. When a person moves through life with a clear sense of why they do what they do, their presence feels different. There's less hesitation, less drift, and less susceptibility to distraction or approval seeking. Others perceive his orientation almost immediately. It communicates that your choices are not random or reactive, but aligned with something internally chosen. That alignment creates a sense of conviction, and conviction naturally commands respect. Purpose organizes behavior. Without it, actions often follow convenience, impulse, or external pressure. With it, decisions are filtered through priorities that remain steady over time. People notice when someone's efforts consistently point in a particular direction. That consistency of direction suggests commitment rather than experimentation. Commitment is respected because it implies sacrifice, focus, and persistence. When you repeatedly invest energy into meaningful goals rather than scattered pursuits, observers infer seriousness. Seriousness signals that your life is governed by intention rather than circumstance. Purpose also reduces the need for external validation. Individuals without direction often look outward for cues on what to pursue or how to measure worth. This dependence can manifest as trend following comparison or constant approval seeking. But when your motivation originates internally, your actions are less influenced by opinion. You can continue working toward your objectives even when recognition is absent or criticism appears. Others interpret this independence as confidence. Confidence rooted in purpose feels stable, rather too. Performative, and stability evokes respect. Another reason purpose commands respect is that it produces resilience. Meaningful goals provide context for difficulty. When setbacks occur, they are interpreted not as final defeats, but as obstacles within a larger path. Observers see persistence where others might quit. Persistence tied to meaning appears stronger than persistence tied to ego because it suggests dedication beyond self-image. People respect those who endure a challenge for something they believe matters. It reflects depth of commitment rather than attachment to comfort. Purposeful living also shapes time use. Time allocation reveals priority. When someone consistently directs time toward growth, contribution, or mastery in a chosen area, others perceive discipline. Discipline is respected because it demonstrates the ability to delay gratification for long-term value. Purpose clarifies what deserves attention and what does not. This clarity reduces distraction and indecision. Observers recognize that your energy is invested rather than scattered. Focused investment conveys determination, and determination earns respect. There is also a communicative aspect to purpose. Even without explanation, purposeful individuals express coherence between values and actions. Their work, conversations, and choices align around themes that reflect intention. This coherence creates entity clarity. People understand what you stand for and what you are building. Clarity reduces ambiguity and social perception. When others can easily grasp your direction, they are more likely to respect it, even if they do not share it. Respect does not require agreement. It requires recognition of authenticity and commitment. Purpose further influences how you respond to opportunity and distraction. Not every available option aligns with your direction. Purposeful individuals decline paths that conflict with their priorities, even when attractive. This selective engagement signals self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is respected because it implies reflection and intentional living. Those who know what final motivation and life lesson they are pursuing are less easily swayed by novelty or pressure. Observers interpret this selectivity as strength of will rather than limitation. Importantly, living with purpose does not require grand scale or public recognition. Purpose can exist in any domain: craft, service, learning, creation, or personal development. What matters is alignment and continuity. When your efforts repeatedly serve something meaningful to you, your behavior carries quiet conviction. That conviction is perceptible in how you speak about your work, how you allocate effort, and how you persist through difficulty. Others sense that your actions are anchored in significance, rather than convenience. Over time, consistent purpose builds narrative. People come to associate you with dedication to a particular aim or set of values. This association forms identity. Identity grounded in purpose attracts respect because it reflects intentional authorship of one's life path. Rather than drifting through circumstances, you are seen as shaping them toward chosen ends. Agency combined with meaning creates authority of presence. Individuals recognize that you are guided by an internal compass rather than external noise. And that recognition produces a level of respect that arises naturally without demand.